I made a counter guide for all 41 killers and Dead by Daylight. With over 6,000 hours in the game since launch, here's everything I've learned, starting with the Trapper. Never go down near the basement.
Thank you.
It's a death trap against any killer, but especially him. He can block the entire place off with traps. Avoid grassy spots. Just don't even walk in them. Avoid windows and obvious choke points. He loves predictable players, especially around objectives. If you don't check, he's going to put a trap right there. So definitely look where you're walking.
Oh.
If you're hit with the endurance, like off the record or dead hard, you can break out of a trap if he swings instead of picking you up. And don't 99% exit gates. Disarm traps can reactivate, and you might step in one without realizing. As easy as it is to counter the Trapper, the Wraith is a different story. This killer is fast, which means camping pallets is not always a safe bet. Timing is everything, so yes, you can still land a stun, but don't count on it being free. One way to punish his speed is try baiting a swing and slip past him. If you're quick, he'll overshoot. And lastly, stay away from open areas. Wraith thrives there. He'll catch up fast and drop you even faster. Next up, we have the Hillbilly. Hillbilly is an S tier killer, high mobility, deadly if played well. When you're up against him, assume he knows your next move, so fake it. If he thinks he'll hug a wall, break away instead. Always mix it up. The best counter against the Hillbilly is FOB tech. When he revs behind you, run straight at him. If timed right, he loses you in his field of view. It's risky, but it seriously throws him off.
Shit, no. Woo! Yay!
Don't drop pallets early if he's bad at curving. Let him keep making the same mistakes. Forcing a missed curve wastes his time, giving your teammates time to finish generators.
No.
Some survivors use the locker tech. It can work, but it's a high risk. Only pull that off if you're desperate or lucky like this build. Environmental counters like trees aren't reliable anymore, but structures like the bus or low ceilings can mess him up. Just don't count on them like the old Dead by Daylight players did. Stay unpredictable, make them guess. If you do, even the top tier hillbillies can feel confused and lost. The nurse is one of the hardest killers to counter in Dead by Daylight. Sometimes it feels like she hits you with every single blink perfectly, and you're left wondering what you could have done differently. So here are some of my top strategies to survive against her. Break line of sight. Very simple, but very, very effective. If she can't see you, she can't blink accurately. Use walls, trees, corners, whatever it is to your advantage. Don't be predictable, especially when you're running in a straight line. This is a death sentence. If she blinks towards you, consider running towards her. It throws her blink completely off, at least until she starts catching on. Then fake it. Pretend you're going to rush at her, but double back instead. Use lockers strategically. Jumping into a locker during her fatigue window can buy you time to escape. Just be careful, some nurses will swing at the locker at the last second.
Oh.
Skip the dumb tech vaulting, especially mid-blink. A lot of survivors do this, I don't know why. It might work some of the time, but against me, it usually ends up badly. I've messed up blink so many times at a pallet, and the survivor just falls right into my arms. It's amazing. Next up we have Michael Myers. He's one of the original stealth killers in Dead by Daylight. With his recent rework, he plays very differently now, but there's still valuable lessons from my older clips I want to show you that are definitely going to be helpful. Let's start with his stalking ability. How do you counter it? If Myers is stalking you, try to break line of sight by hiding behind solid objects. Avoid structures with holes or gaps in them. He can stalk through a whole bunch of objects you might not realize. Areas that are fully walled off are much harder to stalk through and can buy you precious time. Alright, you need to be a little bit aware of your surroundings. Myers can now enter his stalker mode at any moment, which makes generator grabs much more common than ever before. Always stay alert while repairing, don't get too comfortable, even if you think you're alone. Now, I've mostly avoided talking about perks so far, because I don't want you to feel like you need to buy a DLC just to counter a specific killer, or that you should always bring a perk on the off chance that one of them shows up. That said, Premonition is a free perk that works against every killer, especially stealthy ones. If they keep sneaking up on you, give it a shot. It gives you a heads up when they're nearby, which can be a huge difference for new players. Alright, let's talk about Evil Incarnate. If Myers enters this mode, your goal is to either gain a lot of distance from him, or run him through that tight loop with sharp turns. His Slaughter Strike is powerful but hard to steer. It tends to go in a straight line, much like Chucky or Wesker. But he might be able to manage a 90-degree turn if he's hugging the wall, so anything tighter will usually cause him to miss. Overall, it's all about breaking line of sight whenever you can. Play smart. Myers is scary, but he's not unstoppable, so definitely give some of these tips a try. Next up, a killer you probably haven't seen much in your lobbies, the Hag. Despite being one of the least picked killers in Dead by Daylight, a good Hag absolutely dominates if survivors aren't careful. Her entire playstyle revolves around setting traps and teleporting to them when survivors trigger them. Unfortunately, a lot of survivors still run full speed around objectives, hooks, and loops, making the Hag's life extremely easy. Don't be that survivor. Take your time. When you suspect a trap, just take your time, look around, maybe there's a trap, just get rid of it. It takes only 4 seconds. Not a big deal. Make sure you're crouched so you don't trigger the trap, and that's it. If you do get hit, use your hit speed boost wisely.
He panicked.
I don't know what this Jake was doing, but he dropped right off the building. So yeah,
funny.
Don't waste your time by falling off ledges or running into dead zones. Hag isn't a fast killer, so your best bet is to loop her in trap-free zones. She struggles without her trap, doing all the work. Another tip, she's one of the shortest killers in the game, which means hiding might work. Of course, sometimes you'll still get caught by a random trap, it happens, but if you stay aware of common trap spots, Hag becomes far less dangerous. Next up, we have the Doctor, killer with 2 main abilities, Shock Therapy and Static Blast. Shock Therapy disables survivors' actions on hit. To counter it, it's all about rhythm and timing. Predict when he's going to shock and try to vault or change directions before it hits you. Don't stand still at a drop pallet. Once shocked, you won't be able to vault back, so don't do that. Keep on moving if there's nowhere else to go. Try to delay his hit as long as possible. You also can't be shocked while in a locker, but be careful. Once in Madness Tier 2, hallucinations might spawn next to you. That's fine if you're running head on, but otherwise, it can give away your position. His Static Blast covers a much wider area, but has a longer cooldown. To avoid it, either hide in a locker or get out of his terror radius. Whatever you do, don't be in the basement when this goes off, because there's no way to get out of it. Alright, let's talk about the first range killer in Dead by Daylight, the Huntress. The Huntress has an amazing range She can hit you across the map, she can hit you really close. And it's really difficult to go against her because sometimes you get hit, you know, from out of nowhere because you don't even see the killer. So how do you counter this killer? Hatchets can be dodged, but good Huntresses will predict your movements. Still, it's always worth trying, just don't run in a straight line. If you're running in a straight line, it's just going to be an easy down. Mix up your movement and throw in some FOV tech, if she's close enough. That quick turn can throw her off her aim. When she's aiming, do not vault pallets, just try to dodge it. You're just giving her a clean shot, really easy. Try to dodge as much as you can. And if you can, it's better to force her into an M1 situation, because she's not going to hit you at a loop unless there's a gap in there. Because basically, she's a 110% movement speed killer. So tight loops are your best friend. But you never know, if there's like a small gap in that loop, you just gotta be careful there because she can hit right through it. So it's better not to drop a pallet, just don't drop it. Here's something I shouldn't have to say, but there's always someone out there doing it. Do not hide in a locker. There is a small exception to this. Basically, if the Huntress is trying to protect a 3-gen, and you want to lure the Huntress away, jump in a locker across the map over and over and over again, and see if you can lure the Huntress away. And it can be very effective and annoying. So yes, it does work. At Shack, you can hide behind the box on the left when entering, after you throw down the pallet, if you do it on time. But don't just get comfortable there, the Huntress can move over to the window and hit you from that line of sight. So what you want to do is move to the other side and just hide out of sight. Be on the move, just be very unpredictable, and you might end up surviving against this killer. Alright, let's talk about Bubba. This killer is an absolute powerhouse. Most survivors either panic or completely ignore the resources around them, and that's exactly what gets them killed. Let's talk about pallets. Never camp them. Too many survivors wait too long trying to land a stun, but Bubba's chainsaw sweep can get right through there and hit you before you even drop it. So make sure you keep it safe, be smart, and throw that pallet a little bit early and keep moving. I've seen so many people fail here, it is ridiculous. There's also the locker tech, but let's be honest, most survivors mess this up too. If you're going to try it, wait 3 to 4 seconds after the chainsaw sweep starts. And if he goes into a tantrum, wait an additional 3-4 seconds. Depending on how you count it, you have to get used to that rhythm. It's not an instant jump into the chainsaw. If you go too early, you're just handing Bubba a free down. Windows are your friend against Bubba, but be careful with your approach. Avoid medium vaults at awkward angles. They'll get you killed. Above all, use the map's resources. Don't hand him a free instant down. During the in-game collapse, if Bubba's camping a hooked survivor, just leave. I don't know why people keep trying to save against the Bubba. It usually just ends up with him getting even more kills. Same goes with the basement. Sometimes it's better just to leave. Don't stay. So yeah, just play smart, don't panic, and respect Bubba. And basically avoid overcommitting. And you'll definitely win against this killer. Next on the list is Freddy Krueger. Freddy becomes more dangerous the more survivors are asleep. When you're asleep, he can use dream snares or pallet ruptures against you. He can teleport to generators, and that teleport cooldown gets faster with more people that are asleep. But here's the catch, if you're awake, none of that matters. Snares, they don't affect you. Pallet ruptures, they won't hurt you. And teleporting, He can't even teleport to you while you're healing if you're awake. So yeah, staying awake is the biggest counter to this killer. So what do you do when you're asleep?
Congratulations.
So you got 3 options to wake up.
It's your fault.
You can use an alarm clock. They're easy to find, they're marked on your screen, and they instantly wake you up. An awake teammate can also wake you up. Takes a few seconds, but it works. Or fail a skill check on purpose, like on a generator or healing, it wakes you up. But you lose 10% gen progress, so only do that as a last resort. Alright, the last tip, be cautious in the endgame. Freddy with no-ed can turn things around really fast. He can teleport to exit gates, making it difficult to escape. So if you can cleanse no-ed first, he will lose a big piece of his power. But overall, Freddy is not very strong at all. Without his ability, he's just an M1 killer with map presence, and not much else. Now let's talk about the pig, a stealthy killer who applies pressure through reverse bear traps and ambush attacks. Alright, so her traps are all about stalling generators and wasting your time. You gotta be very efficient about it. Sometimes it's better to do generators first. Once your trap activates, focus on box searching, but stay smart. Don't run to the nearest box next to the hook you were just at, because most likely the pig is going to go straight there. If you're a last trap survivor and the final gen is about to pop, consider delaying it and looking for a box and getting rid of that trap. You can also escape through hatch with an active trap, so if you're a teammate and you know someone on the map has a trap that's active, just escape through the exit gate so the hatch can be in play. Be a good teammate. The pig's other strength is her stealth mechanic. In crouch mode, she has no terror radius, making her able to grab survivors off of generators, and can get an easy ambush attack on unsuspecting survivors. So overall, the pig is pretty simple. She's all about stall and ambush. Again, just make sure you disarm her traps.
Can't see me.
Be very efficient. Avoid getting down by her dash attack and try to be aware so she has no stealth mechanic at all. Next up is the clown, the ugliest killer in Dead by Daylight. His purple bottles slow you down a lot, so pre-dropping pallets early is usually your best bet. Try to loop him normally, and it's not really worth it. The hindered effect kills your ability to loop both tiles. On small loops, however, you want to aim for that pallet stun if you can. It's risky, but strong if it lands. If he drops a yellow bottle, for speed you might snag the bottle boost too, but those moments are rare and very unreliable. Overall, the clown's weak to survivors who don't loop and force reloads. If you dodge his bottles and make him burn through them, he'll eventually need to reload, giving you free distance. Here's a tricky one to counter, the Spirit. She's a fast killer who phases through the map to ambush survivors. One perk that can help is Iron Will, which reduces your grunts of pain while injured. But since we don't typically bring perks just for one specific killer, let's focus on some universal counterplay. First off, avoid moving through the grass when possible. Even though the Spirit can't see you while facing, she can see environmental clues like rustling grass. Stick to solid ground when you can. Running towards her can also throw her off. Because she relies heavily on sound and prediction, unexpected movement patterns can throw her off and mess her with her tracking. If you're uninjured, walking is your best friend. It creates no scratch marks or noise, making it much harder for her to locate you during a phase. And audio cues are also crucial. You can often tell which direction she's facing from by listening closely. And if she's faking a phase, try blinding her. A successful blind will actually interrupt her power she can't phase while she's blinded. In the end, unpredictability and silence are your strongest tools. Play quietly, move smart, and don't be afraid to get creative when she phases. Now let's talk about the Legion. This killer's power, Feral Frenzy, relies on chaining hits between survivors. The best way to shut it down is basically don't group up. Very simple, don't get together. Avoid working on generators together. Not only does it counter Legion, but it's also more efficient in general. If the Legion is chasing you in Feral Frenzy, drop a pallet on them. This instantly ends their power and forces them into a regular M1 chase. If you've already been hit with Feral Frenzy and a teammate is nearby, they can body block the next hit. This can protect the teammate and break the chain. If survivors are spread out, healing isn't a priority. Legion gets the most value when everyone's injured and healing all the time, so don't waste your time healing. That said, if someone has a healing build, like Botany, Knowledge, Circle of Healing, or whatever, take the heal, don't refuse help, and go down seconds later. I've seen that happen too. So yeah, basically you don't want to heal all the time, but if you're dead on hook, you might as well reset. Don't hide. Killer Instinct reveals your location during Feral Frenzy, so crouching or hiding behind objects is completely pointless. And also stay out of lockers. I've seen a few survivors do this. Legion's power gives them wall hacks. If you're in a locker, they'll know, and it's a free grab. So basically, spread out, play aggressively, shut down Feral Frenzy with pallets or blinds, stop hiding, it won't work, heal smart but not always, and most importantly, do gens. Let's talk about the Plague, one of the most versatile ranged killers in Dead by Daylight. Since she's not picked often, a lot of survivors don't know how to handle her and go down really fast. So here are some quick tips to counter her. First, crouching while she's puking can help you dodge her projectiles. It lowers your hitbox and works well against most ranged killers in general. It's just a good tip. Second, avoid cleansing at pools of devotion. This denies her access to Corrupt Purge. Unless she's using the Iridescent Seal add-on, of course she's going to use it anyways. After you complete a gen, it's just going to activate it. That said, if she's proxy camping a hook survivor, cleansing might be worth it. But do it in a corner of the map, preferably near completed generators. If she does get Corrupt Purge, your goal is to waste as much of her time as possible. Everyone could just hide for a little bit. And just don't give her any easy hits. Just wait it out. Here's a niche strategy. I never see survivors try, so I don't know if this is worth saying, but I'll go ahead and mention it. If your team is cleansing a lot, consider corrupting every pool. Why? Yeah, why would you do this? Because it resets all of them and gives the Plague one Corrupt Purge. Risky, but it's kind of interesting to give this a try, because I've never seen anyone do it. And finally, you can pallet stun a Plague during Corrupt Purge. If you time it right, it forces her back to Vile Purge. It's rare, but I do see this work a little more often. So definitely give this one a try. Now let's talk about Ghostface, one of behavior's trickiest killers to get right. When he first released, it was super easy to break him out of Night Shroud. You just had to look in his general direction. Now, not so simple. You have to center him on your screen, and even then it's not always consistent. There's some leeway, but if he's crouched or partially behind cover, it might not work all the time. This is likely due to how object hitboxes work in Dead by Daylight. They sometimes extend beyond what you actually see. Alright, another thing you can do is make sure you don't run directly at Ghostface or give him a free stock. At just giving him a free 99% stock that he can instantly expose you later in the game. So yeah, don't just goof off with him, he's gonna get you later. Instead, use elevation to your advantage, get to a high point where you can spot him very easily, and break his Night Child with ease. Once he's revealed, he's just a regular M1 killer with no power or pressure. You can also pallet stun him out of Night Shroud, but be careful, some Ghostface players run an add-on that instantly refills his power after breaking a pallet, so don't rely on that, but it is kinda useful to get him out of that state. And if he fully stalks you and gets you exposed, your best bet is to create distance. The exposed status effect lasts for a minute, so you just have to be very careful and loop him as long as possible. So yeah, basically survive the timer, and you might end up surviving the chase. Alright, next up, the first non-human killer in Dead by Daylight, the Demogorgon. This killer has a unique power set focused on mobility and shred attacks. So let's break it down and see how we survive against him. The Demogorgon's shred attack is fast and has extended range, but it's not instant. There's a short wind up which gives you just enough time to react if you're paying attention. The longer he charges, the further he pounces, so don't underestimate that reach. If you're in a chase and see him charging up, try to juke left or right, or break line of sight around a corner. If you can bait him out of a missed shred, it gives you a crucial window to create distance. But be careful, don't drop pallets too late. Shred has a deceptive long lunge, and unless your timing is perfect or your ping is solid, you'll likely get hit before the pallet lands. In tight loops or jungle gyms, Demogorgon struggles, his shred doesn't usually turn well, and often clips walls or corners. This forces him to rely on basic attacks, usually turning him into an M1 killer. Use this to your advantage. Stick to structures with tight turns and avoid long open areas where a shred is more dangerous. If you're caught in a dead zone, a long hallway, you're basically giving this killer a free hit. Alright, next up, portals. Portals let Demogorgon teleport around the map, giving him a strong map control and pressure on unguarded gens. But they come with a trade-off you can exploit. Cleanse portals near generators and other objectives. This slows his rotation and forces him to walk. But don't waste your time cleansing portals near gens that are already completed. It's just not worth your time. And since those portals are a limited resource, and you can't place any more if you just leave them there. Also, when a portal is active, it acts like Legion's power. It can trigger Killer Instinct and reveal your location if you're nearby. So don't hide in a locker next to one, and it's because you're going to be found. And if you're trying to hide from the killer, make sure you don't do that near an active portal. And heads up, while you're inside a portal's radius, you're oblivious. That means no terror radius, making it easier for him to sneak up on you. So if he's teleporting, he can emerge very silently and catch you off guard. But if you're listening very carefully, you can hear his footsteps. So he's not that much of a stealth killer, so don't worry about it. So overall, Demogorgon is strongest when he controls the map and forces you into a easy area where he can pounce on you. It becomes much more manageable when you don't give him free shreds. So stay unpredictable, stay mobile, and you'll do just fine. Next up we have the Oni, one of the scariest killers in Dead by Daylight. So how do we counter him? First step, you don't want to feed him blood. So Oni's power, Yomoka's Wrath, kicks in when he collects enough blood orbs from injured survivors. Once he does, he activates Blood Fury, which gives him Demon Dash, a super fast sprint, and Demon Strike, a one-shot slam attack. Without Blood Fury, Oni is just a basic M1 killer. So your main goal is basically don't get injured, You want to drop pallets early and don't get greedy. If you never give him blood, he never gets his power. Alright, here's another tip. If you have endurance, just like if you're injured and you go down, you're not going to give him any blood orb. So go ahead and body block if you just got off the hook. You're safe to do so. When he does activate Blood Fury, you want to run tight loops, take sharp corners, and break line of sight. He struggles with movement during Demon Dash, but heads up, a good Oni player can flick 180, so don't just turn, cut wide, and angle away and create space. Alright, here are some advanced tips to shut him down. Flashbang. With perfect timing, you can blind him mid-Demon Dash. It's super niche, but it can save your life. And Locker Tech. Jump in a locker right before he hits you. If he grabs instead of hits you, it cancels his Blood Fury. It's something you can do to just slow down his momentum if he's trying to slug everybody. You can also try to use a Locker Tech to dodge a Demon Strike. But be careful, he can get you in the next one. Alright, so quick recap. Don't feed him blood, especially in the early game. Use endurance hits smartly. And if you can, waste his time and cancel his power. Do all that, and Oni becomes the most manageable killer in the game. Now let's talk about the Deathslinger, the only killer in Dead by Daylight with a gun. He can be frustrating if you're not ready for him, but honestly, he's one of the easiest killers to counter once you know what you're doing. If he starts aiming at you, use the environment to break his line of sight, put trees, walls, or objects between you and him. He can't hit what you can't see, so loop tightly around solid objects and be unpredictable. Quick spins or FOV attacks can throw him off his aim, especially at close range. And keep in mind, he can shoot through gaps and windows, so don't think you're safe just because there's a wall nearby. If you're at check and he's trying to line up a shot through any gap, try jumping into a locker. If he harpoons a teammate, step in and body block the following up hit. It can save them from going down. At the end of the day, your goal is to be a hard target to hit. Make him waste his time aiming, missing, and reloading. Do that well, and he'll spend most of the match reloading than actually downing survivors. Up next is Pyramid Head, my main. He's a powerhouse who can snipe survivors with Punishment of the Damned. But here's the good news, if you know how to counter him, you'll make him miss most of his shots. So how do you deal with this ability? It's a straight line range attack and it's all about prediction. And here's the trick, Pyramid Head is trying to read you. So don't be predictable. Make sure you dodge, hesitate, and double back. Anything to throw off his timing. If you stay unpredictable, you'll dodge it most of the time. And here are some elevation rules to his ability. Punishment of the Damned can go downhill, so he can tag you even if you're really far down. But it doesn't go up ramps or stairs. And it won't travel through any holes in the ground, like the ones on Midwich and RPD. So you can try to get him to use his ability there. I doubt he'll do it, but you might fool him. Alright, Trails of Torment. Let's talk about his other mechanic. So, if you crouch, you won't get tormented by his trails. Very simple. But if you do get tormented, the only way to cleanse it is by uncaging another survivor. And here's another important fact, cages are not hooks. That means perks like Decisive Strike, Borrowed Time, or even Kindred won't activate. So if you're going to engage someone, don't do it with Pyramid Head in the area. He'll just down your teammate again. And finally, at the end of the day, Pyramid Head is a prediction killer. If you're unpredictable, he'll miss most of his Punishment of the Damned shots. So use tight loops, break line of sight, And whatever you do, don't run in a straight line. Now let's talk about one of the trickiest killers to go up against in Dead by Daylight, the Blight. This guy constantly catches me off guard. I'll think I'm safe behind a pallet, around a wall, and then I just go down. So here's what I've learned that might help you to survive a little longer against him. First, avoid areas where he can flick easily. Blight's strength is in chaining his rushes and pulling off flicks around corners, especially small loops. You could just flick right around him. Like with Oni, you want to angle your movement away from him, not just duck behind cover. Just being behind a wall or object is not going to be enough. He's going to curve around and still hit you. So make sure you just keep turning, especially more than just 90 degrees. You want to just keep on going. Another thing, Blight can't hit you on his first rush. So technically you can body block his path during that initial rush. But to be honest with you, I've never been able to pull this off. So what's the strategy? Overall, you want to keep as many obstacles between you and him as possible. If it's not easy for him to rush through multiple objects, it might force him to bounce around awkwardly, like a pinball. The more he bounces around, the more chances you have to create some distance and get to a better loop. So bottom line, don't rely on traditional safe spots. Blight's really good about getting around objects. So you want to position and space yourself as best as you can against this killer. Next up we got the twins, the only killer in Dead by Daylight where you're up against two killers at once. And I'll be real with you, part of me doesn't really want to share anything about this killer because I love playing him. I love the fact that no one knows how to counter him, but alright. Here's how to shut him down. The best counter to Victor is very simple. Kick him every time he misses a pounce. And you can also kick him after he lands a successful pounce on an injured survivor. So yeah, just don't run away from your teammate. You can just support your teammate and kick him even when he downs someone. And hopefully, if you have a healing build, you get your teammate right back up before Charlotte even gets there. Alright, there's a few situations when you don't want to kick Victor. If he's just chilling next to a generator, just leave him alone. He's probably being used as bait or a trap, so just rotate to a different gen. One of the reasons you want to do this is because she might have Iridescent Pendant. So kicking Dormant Victor will give you the exposed status effect, so basically it's just not worth it. And just like a lot of the killers in this era of Dead by Daylight, you want to avoid Killer Instinct. Don't hide near a Dormant Victor. His Killer Instinct's going to reveal you even if you're in a locker, so don't even bother. So what do you do if Victor does end up pouncing on you? You could keep Victor on you like a backpack, sure, and you basically disable Charlotte's power, but you are going to be oblivious. So the killer can sneak up on you and do all these other things, so you might want to get rid of it, but it's entirely up to you. But if you don't remove them, you're basically disabling the killer's power, so you can decide not to remove them. Let's just say Charlotte is right on your toe. What do? Don't try to get Victor off because that's going to slow you down, allowing Charlotte to get the easy hit. So just let him remain on your shoulders and you get a little more distance. But during the end game, you do want to remove Victor because you can't leave through the exit gate with him on you. Twins will block the exit gate, just like Blood Wardens. Don't get cocky and teabag at the exit gate and allow Victor to latch right on you. Just leave. If a teammate does end up having Victor stuck on him at the exit gate and ends up going down, you could try to hill tech them just long enough that they can escape. Alright, here's some miscellaneous tips. Jumping into a locker to avoid Victor's pounds
Let's go.
might be a good idea. I mean, it's just a gamble. It's like 10 seconds that you can actually shove Victor off the locker and you can escape unharmed. But it really just depends how close Charlotte is, and it's really hard to tell. I think it's better to go around a short loop. It's easy for Victor to miss. Longer loops where he can pounce really far, it's not really safe. You can use the elevation at stairs to mess with Victor's hitbox and can throw him off. Just like a lot of killers, their power does not work on stairs. Why? Who knows? You can also stun Charlotte with a pallet while Victor is active, which forces the killer to switch back to Charlotte. So yeah, back in the day, Charlotte would be used to basically block pallets, making loops very, very dangerous and easy for Victor to down you. This is no longer the case, so just stun Charlotte when she's dormant. And that's how you counter the twins. Kick the baby, play smart, and don't fall for any of her traps. Now for a killer with one of the fewest counters in the game, the Trickster. He's hard to deal with due to the constant barrages of knives flying at you. His power shines at close range, so your best move is basically to leave early. Very simple. The moment you hear that 44-meter lullaby start creating distance, the early movement gives you a solid head start before he even shows up. If he does catch up, prioritize tall loops and strong walls to block line of sight. Trickster needs to land multiple blades to injure you, so breaking his vision forces him to waste his time trying to get you. Avoid open areas at all costs. Running in the open or unhooking right in front of him is just feeding him free hits. Don't give him that momentum. Be especially cautious on unhooks. If he's nearby, it's often smarter to delay the save rather than risk getting your whole team down. During in-game, Trickster becomes even more dangerous. If he's camping and not leaving, sometimes the best play is to let the hook survivor just die. It's harsh, but better than trading everyone's life in a hopeless attempt to save everyone. Next up is the Nemesis, and I believe he still is the tallest killer in Dead by Daylight. Nemesis grows in power as the game progresses by hitting survivors with his tentacle strike, which increases his mutation rate. Think of it as a mix between what we've already covered with the Huntress and the Oni. You want to loop smart and deny his power. Don't drop pallets early. Just like when you're going against Huntress, you want to keep looping that pallet over and over and over again to avoid getting hit with his power. His tentacle strike slows him down, so it's often easy to get around a corner before he can even use it. If you consistently deny his tentacle hits, he stays in mutation rate 1, making him essentially just an M1 killer. You can also duck under his tentacle during loops. If your head is lower than any of the walls or objects, it won't be able to hit you. Alright, his other thing going for him is his zombies. They are very, very weak and tend to bug out, so don't worry about them too much. But there are a few tricks when going against them. And just remember that there are only 2 zombies at a time. I believe it's a male and a female. You can stun them with a flashlight or a flashbang. Kill them using a weak pallet. If they're interrupting a nearby gen that's almost complete, you might as well just knock them out for 45 seconds. So yeah, don't be afraid to use pallets. Head on also destroys zombies, and again, they'll be gone for 45 seconds. Just be aware too that Nemesis does see zombie auras at all times, so you can avoid any rush actions near them. They are very attracted to any noise that you make, so you can try to avoid being on his radar. Alright, if you are already infected by Nemesis and he hits you with the whip, it's only 1 mutation rate for him. But if you're not contaminated and he hits you, it's +3 towards his mutation rate. So you might avoid using vaccines immediately just because you can deny him power, especially in mutation rate 1. But once he reaches mutation rate 2 and 3, just go ahead and cleanse to avoid being an easy target. you're just gonna go down and there's no reason to not do it. Alright, so basically, you want to loop smart. Don't pre-drop pallets, just keep looping him. Deny his tentacle hit to slow his power down. Use pallets and flashlights to deal with zombies. They're a very minor threat. And time your vaccine use based on his mutation rate. Now let's talk about one of the more complex killers in Dead by Daylight, Pinhead, also known as the Cenobite. Despite being recently removed from Steam, he's still very much in the fog, and going up against him in solo queue can be a complete nightmare if you don't understand how his power works. At the start of every match, the limit configuration spawns somewhere on the map, typically as far away from all the other players as possible. Good Pinhead players will have a strong sense of where it spawns and will head there early to set the pace of the match. There are two main ways to deal with a box, and I'll explain really quickly. One is to solve the box. Solving it prevents a chain hunt and stops Pinhead from passively pressuring the team. However, Pinhead gets a notification and can teleport to you or interrupt you with a summon chain. Only solve the box if you're safe and know he's far away. Alright, the other option, hold the box. This is a niche strategy, but it pauses the chain hunt timer as long as someone is holding it. Keep in mind, the survivor holding the box becomes oblivious, no terror radius, and Pinhead will get a notification if you do try to solve it. If you're playing stealthy and not doing objectives, at least hold the box to help your team. Alright, if no one solves the box, the chain hunt will activate once the timer fills. When active, chains will periodically spawn and attack all survivors, slowing you down and making everything harder. Alright, to counter the chain hunt, you want to dodge 3 chains. They will spawn in waves. Then solve the box. You'll get a 4-second window where no chains will spawn. If Pinhead downs you before you finish solving, you can then grab the box and restart the chain hunt immediately. To avoid this, get to the box before he does. You can also coordinate with a teammate if possible to keep it under control. Alright, Pinhead's chain power in chase. When chasing, Pinhead can summon a gateway to launch a chain at you. You'll know it's coming when he raises his arm. A diamond-shaped portal will appear on the screen and he will launch that chain at you. There are a few tips to dodge that chain. Use line of sight, run behind walls, trees, or large objects. If you get hit by a chain, use the environment to break them quickly. Be aware though, breaking chains will trigger replacement chains, which spawn from circular portals instead of the diamond ones. You can usually dodge them pretty easily, just go left or right, and it will miss you. Overall, always beware of the box, don't ignore it. Solve it early if you're safe, or hold it if you want to play stealthy. Use cover to avoid chains during the chase, and dodge replacement chains with side movements. Pinhead can be beaten in solo queue, but when no one wants to touch the box, he becomes one of the most frustrating killers to go against. So be the survivor who manages the box, and your team will be very thankful. Next up we have the artist. She's pretty terrifying, but once you know her trick, she's actually one of the easier killers to deal with. Here's how to shut her down fast. First, the swarm. If the swarm hits you, hop in a locker, and you'll immediately get rid of them. But watch out for Iron Maiden. If she's running it, you'll scream and get exposed, so test it early in the match when she's far away, and not when she's near. And remember, if a swarm went by you, she already saw your aura with killer instinct, so never hide in a locker against this killer, especially when a swarm has went right past you. If you're on a generator and you hear that crow sound, step off for a second and let it fly by, and then get right back on it. Don't give her a free swarm if you don't have to. Elevation can be tricky when going against the artist, so I actually tested this out myself just to be sure. So here's what I found and how you can use it to your advantage. If the artist is near an elevated area like a hill, stairs, or a ramp, her crows can travel up and down those surfaces, unless there's a gap. The swarm travels in a straight line and won't follow the changes in the terrain through empty spaces. But if she's positioned far away, her crows will often travel through the elevation instead of over it. That means if you're standing on a hill, the swarm will pass underneath you, completely missing its mark. So use elevation smartly. Positioning yourself on raised ground on slopes can help you avoid getting hit by her crows entirely. Alright, crow mechanics are pretty simple. If you're too close, like 7.5 meters away, they deal damage. Past that, they become swarms and reveal you. So, one of the things you could do is try to fake it out, run towards her setup crows, and see if she releases them too early. If she does fire a crow and misses, she slows down, so use that to gain distance to go to the next loop. So you want to keep moving, keep rotating, make her waste her time setting up. She definitely has a massive cooldown, so keep that in mind. Bottom line, just stay mobile, abuse heights, don't hand her free swarms, and you'll keep her guessing, giving your teammates plenty of time to finish all the generators and allowing everyone to escape the match. Now let's talk about one of the most changed and advanced killers in Dead by Daylight, the Onryo. The Onryo can demanifest, making her completely invisible outside of 24-meter radius. Within that range, however, she flickers in and out of visibility, which makes her really easy to lose track of. She's also very short and quiet, so spotting her in a chase can be tough. But underneath all that, she's still just an M1 killer with a teleport. While demanifested, you can walk straight through her, but remember she could still injure you. It only takes just a moment to fully manifest, which gives you just enough time to reach a pallet or a vault if you're close enough. Her real power comes from teleporting to TVs. That's how she spreads condemnation. Survivors nearby will gain condemned stacks, and if you reach 7, she can instantly kill you. So be very, very careful. But her power is actually easy to counter. You can pick up a tape from a TV and place it in a VCR, which disables her TVs for 70 seconds. So plenty of time to finish a generator. So don't rush it, do this the right way, make sure you pick up tapes. At the start of the match, TVs are disabled for 30 seconds, so use that time to set up and find a safe gen to work on, and then disable that tape around 30 seconds before she teleports to you. When you insert a tape at a highlighted TV, it also removes 3 condemned stacks. However, be careful. After you get hooked, the Onryo can lock those stacks in. After the first hook, she can lock up to 3 stacks, maximum. And after the second hook, up to 6 stacks. And once they're locked, you can't remove them. So your best move, stay on top of your condemn and keep disabling TVs whenever you can. If you do that, the Onryo loses almost all of her pressure, and she becomes just another M1 killer. Alright, here's some advanced tips. If you haven't learned anything yet, if she teleports right to you, try to blind her as she appears. You got plenty of time to do that, so might as well make her blind. Or you can hide near the TV. If you're crouched right next to the TV, she won't be able to see you because you're outside her field of view. So this is a pretty good safe spot and one of my favorite strategies to use against her. Alright, so overall, facing the Onryo can seem scary at first. All that teleporting and flickering can be intimidating. But once you understand how her TVs and condemn work, she's one of the easiest killers to control. So keep her power disabled, manage your stacks, and you'll turn one of the most mobile killers in Dead by Daylight into one of the most manageable. Now let's talk about the Dredge, one of the easiest killers to counter if you know what you're doing. The Dredge has a few unique abilities, starting with the Remnant. This lets the Dredge leave behind a copy of itself, usually while looping a pallet, and the Dredge can instantly teleport back to it. Now here's a risky counter, but if you're bold, you can run into the Remnant and destroy it before the Dredge teleports back. You can also fake running towards the Remnant and double back. Sometimes they'll fall for it, and other times they won't. So it's possible you can get the Dredge to teleport back to the Remnant even though you're not there. Another smart play is to leave the loot, because the Dredge slows down while setting up the Remnant. So you got multiple options here depending on the situation. Next up, Dredge can teleport to lockers. You can counter this by locking the lockers, which forces Dredge to break them and gives you extra time to get away. Just remember, only lock one locker per set, because lockers in a group are connected, and Dredge will always appear at the locked one. Be careful though. If you lock a locker while Dredge is teleporting to it, you'll get grabbed instantly. And if you ever see someone get pulled out of a locker against Dredge, they probably weren't hiding. This is probably what happened to them. Now let's talk about Nightfall. This ability automatically charges over time and feels faster when survivors are injured. Once activated, it gets really dark, making it easy to lose track of everything. And the best counter to this, don't get hit. Easier said than done, I know. And work on your map awareness, which just comes with practice. Overall, your best chances against the Dredge are winning the 50-50 loops by faking the Remnant, lock smart, and try to be aware of your surroundings during Nightfall. Alright, let's talk about Wesker, easily one of the most popular killers in the history of Dead by Daylight. And honestly, one of the most annoying if you don't know how to deal with him. His power, Virulent Bound, lets him dash forward super fast and either grabs you or slams you into a wall. He has 2 charges by default, or 3 if you're playing in the 2v8 mode. The best way to counter his bound is to break line of sight. If he can't see you, he can't aim his bound really well. So use walls, tight corners, and big loops to block his vision and try to get around it before he hits you. And try to force him into awkward spots where he might actually bound right past you and vault instead. If you can make him vault a window instead of hitting you, that'll make him lose a ton of distance and you can easily gain space to reset the chase. You can also allow him to bound you in an open area with no rocks or objects at all, and you'll be completely unharmed by him. Now let's talk about vaults. Now for me, I prefer not to vault the windows, just because if I can dodge his bound, he'll vault it instead. But if you do try to vault it, just remember that he can still hit you while vaulting if he's close enough. Another big mistake survivors make is sticking too close together. If a survivor gets grabbed or slammed, anyone nearby could take splash damage and get put into the mending state. Alright, so let's talk about the infections. This is another huge part of Wesker's power. Once he hits you with a virulent bound, you're going to be infected, and the infection grows over time. If it maxes out, you become hindered, meaning you move slower, so there's no real counter against this, except for the first aid sprays from the supply cases scattered around the map. So make sure you grab one and cleanse yourself. So overall, you want to break line of sight, bait out his dashes by faking vaults or sharp turns. Don't group up. Keep your infection low so you don't get slowed. And most importantly, stay calm if you panic and run in straight lines, Wesker is going to get you every time. So yeah, Wesker can be terrifying, but once you understand how to use the map and bait his power, he's actually pretty manageable. Alright, next up, let's talk about the Knight. This guy is basically the king of zoning in Dead by Daylight, but honestly, once you understand how he works, it's really not that bad. So first things first, you gotta know how his guards work. When a guard hunt starts, you got a few ways to deal with it. Option 1, just outrun it. Each guard has different stats, so be a little bit careful. The assassin is a lot faster, but the Carnifex does chase you for a little bit longer. And I think the Jailer has just a longer patrol duration and can chase you a little bit longer too. So yeah, just be a little bit aware of that and you'll be just fine. Option 2, unhook a survivor. That will instantly end the hunt, and it's a super clean way to shut down his pressure. And option 3, grab the flag. But heads up, you can't do that right away. You have to wait for the horn to blow before the flag actually appears. So make sure you loop around for a bit before you actually go for it. Now here's another counter. Knight loves to summon the Carnifex to break pallets instantly. So if you drop it too early, the Carnifex is just going to break it instantly. Instead, don't drop it right away. Force him to cancel the summon and chase you instead. That wastes his time and gives you more distance. And finally, whatever you do, don't get zoned into a corner. That's exactly where the Knight wants you. So keep an eye for your escape routes and try to leave just a little bit early before he shows up. If you keep these tips in mind, the Knight goes from being in control to just another M1 killer. Moving on to the Skull Merchant, and honestly, there's not a whole lot to say. Behave her really good, this killer, and as a result, she's barely a threat in most matches. Her power doesn't do much anymore, but you should still be aware of her stealth mechanic. Whenever she deploys a drone, she gains 8 seconds of undetectable, which means no terror radius or red stains, so if you suddenly lose her heartbeat, she's probably still around. You can crouch under her drone scan line to avoid getting detected. It's super easy to sneak up and disable it if you really want to. Just keep in mind that disabling a drone does give away your position, so sometimes it's better just to leave it alone. And that's really about it. There's probably a few other things, but there isn't much depth to her kit anymore, and you don't see her often anymore, so you probably won't have to counter her anyways. Next up we have the Singularity. One of the easiest killers to counter if you know how to use EMPs effectively. EMPs are your best friend in this matchup. They disable biopods for 45 seconds and remove slipstreams from survivors. If your teammate's being chased and get slipstream, charge up an EMP and remove it to help them out. When the Singularity is looking through a biopod, it glows green. That's your cue to break line of sight, hide behind rocks, walls, and structures to avoid being slipstreamed. If you already have a slipstream on you, stay near vaults or pallets that already dropped. You can't teleport through a vault if you're right next to it. And if you're right next to a pallet, this forces him to teleport and break that pallet, giving you a small window to reach another loop. Be careful though, never drop a pallet on him while he's in overclock mode. After teleporting, he can destroy the pallet instantly and hit you at the same time, kinda like Spirit Fury. So the best strategy is very simple: pre-drop early, stay unpredictable, and prioritize EMPs. If you disable his power at the start by grabbing one from the supply case, the Singular becomes nothing more than a basic M1 killer. Now let's talk about one of the more difficult killers to go against, the Xenomorph. This killer is a nightmare to go against if you don't know what you're doing, but he's kinda like the Nemesis in a lot of ways. But unlike the Nemesis, it's a lot more accurate and a lot more punishing if you're not careful. Now the Xeno's tail attack is basically its ranged weapon. The counter here is pretty similar to how you deal with the Nemesis. tentacle strike. If you're out of pallet, you can greet it, and if he attacks with the tail, then you can just throw the pallet down there right after. You can also duck. When you crouch in this game, it lowers your hitbox and causes the tail attack to whiff a lot of the times. So if you do this, you can avoid a lot of unnecessary hits. But honestly, the best counter to the Xenomorph isn't looping tricks, it's the flame turrets. You can grab these at the control stations scattered around the map. And here's the cool thing, turrets don't just burn the Xeno, they act like an early warning system. So when the killer is tunneling underground, the turrets start beeping so you know it's time to leave before you even see them. So that's a big advantage. Now, one thing to remember, every time the Xenomorph exits a control station, all turrets get temporarily disabled. So if you place your turret right next to a control station, it won't burn them and pop out. Instead, set it up a little further away, somewhere out of the killer's direct path. That way it's harder for them to destroy and it gives you a little more protection. You want to think of turrets as part of your loop. Don't put them inside the loop because the Xeno can just swing by and break it mid-chase without disabling its power, because it has to burn the Xenomorph for a period of time before it breaks them out of power. Instead, just put it outside of the Xenomorph's reach. So if the killer wants to destroy it, they have to leave you, giving you tons of distance. And here's a fun strategy, if you set up two turrets covering the same area, the Xenomorph basically can't avoid it. If it destroys one, the other one will trigger and disable it for sure. So it always gives you value. Also, when a turret burns a Xeno, it does stagger it. Basically gives you a free chance to get more distance and reach a new loop. So yeah, turrets are basically your number one thing for surviving against this killer, so definitely use them. So overall, don't panic at pallets so you can greed and duck a tail attack. Set up turrets early for info, place them smartly, not too close to control stations, and use two turrets if you want to make the Xeno's life miserable. Do that and the killer just becomes an M1 killer with no power. Next up, the good guy himself, Chucky. Chucky's main power is hidey-ho mode. When he activates it, he goes undetectable, no terror radius, no red stain, and spawns illusionary footsteps around every survivor within 16 meters. Those footsteps are totally fake, random, and don't show where he actually is. When he's not in hidey-ho, those footsteps are real, they track his actual movements. And here's the confusing part, if Chucky gets undetectable with a perk like Tinker or Trails of Torment, the footsteps are still real. So be very, very careful. Sometimes Chucky is just trying to sneak up on you. To counter him, watch for random messy foot patterns. At your cue, he's in hidey-ho, so get ready for a stealth hit. If they look directional or consistent, that's real movement. Listen for his giggle, you know he's very close. And try to stay very unpredictable, especially when he tries to do a slice and dice. So try to use sharp turns, double back, and just use unusual pathing. And his dash attack is just going to go in a straight line and completely miss you. So overall, know the difference between fake and real footsteps, and try to use sharp turns and unusual pathing to dodge a slice and dice attack as best you can. And you'll beat Chucky most of the time. Moving on to the unknown, one of the easiest range killers to counter in Dead by Daylight. His range attack UVX is tricky to aim from a distance, but almost guaranteed to hit at close range. The best counter is to just dodge him. Even if you get hit and become weakened, you can remove the effect simply by staring at him for 10 seconds. While weakened, you'll be hindered, so your movement is slowed, but if the unknown misses even one UVX shot during that time, you'll automatically cleanse that effect, completely wasting his efforts. Force him to whiff enough times and he basically turns into an M1 killer. Now, onto his hallucination. These can appear around the map and mimic his presence. When the hallucination is in the crumpled state, that means the unknown is on teleport cooldown, so it's very safe to dispel it, especially if it's near an important objective. If you try to dispel one while he can teleport, there's a risk he'll appear and hit you, applying the weakened status effect. So avoid that, only dispel when you know his teleport is on cooldown or he's busy chasing someone else. And that's pretty much it. If you stay unpredictable and bait out those missed UVX shots, he'll quickly lose all pressure and be reduced to a basic attack killer. Alright, let's talk about Vecna, one of the most complicated killers in Dead by Daylight. This guy brings a full spellbook into the fog with 4 unique abilities and a handful of magical items that can completely change a match. So we're going to break down how each of Vecna's powers work, what you can do to counter them, and which magic items you should prioritize. So let's dive in. First up, Fly. Vecna can soar across the map for about 4 seconds, gliding over vaults and pallets. It looks terrifying, but there's actually a trick to dealing with it. If you time it right, you can pass through him right before he cancels the power, and if Vecna vaults while flying, it instantly ends the ability. So your goal, keep him on the opposite side of loops before his early cancels, and if you find the Fly Guard magic item, grab it. It will reveal Vecna while he's flying, so you know where he is during the entire match. Alright, Flight of the Damned. Now this one can be pretty nasty. Vecna launches 5 spectral skulls that travel in a straight line, and yes, they do go through walls. Your best defense is to duck under them. But be careful, stronger Vecna players can spawn entities right on top of you, leaving you almost no time to react at all. Sometimes your only hope is to slip between the skulls, but it is very difficult to do so. Alright, the Night Watch magic item. It will reveal the skull's path even through obstacles, giving you a split-second warning to dodge or reposition. Next up we have the Dispelling Spear. This ability disables all magical items for 60 seconds and reveals survivors with Killer Instinct. No perks will counter this, so your best move is simple: stay mobile and don't hide in a locker. If you're running the Archivist magic item, you can't see these spears coming from across the entire map. That lets you reposition before they reach you and keeps your items safe for later. And now for the most annoying spell, Mage Hand. It messes with pallets in 2 ways. If it's dropped, Vecna can lift it instantly. If the pallet's standing, you can block it for 4 seconds. That means you need to think ahead when looping. On short loops, you might actually be able to wait out the block and keep going. If Vecna's too far back, you can even drop it again right in his face, so go ahead and give this a try. The Interlooper item highlights pallets affected by Mage Hand and gives you a 3-second haste boost. That little haste can help you loop back to safety once the block expires. Alright, let's talk about chests. When you search magical chests, be careful. Sometimes they're not chests, they're mimics, and missing a skill check will injure you. But if you're lucky, you might find it one of Vecna's legendary artifacts, the Hand of Vecna or the Eye of Vecna. So the Hand of Vecna, this one lets you teleport between lockers that are at least 10 meters away. It can be clutch to escape, but if Vecna's nearby, he might track you again almost immediately. The Eye of Vecna suppresses your aura, scratch marks, blood pools, and grunts of pain, and gives you a 25% haste boost, which is pretty significant. Sounds amazing, but there is a catch. Once you reappear, it triggers Killer Instinct for 3 seconds. And Vecna can hear you and see your movement through the grass. So try to avoid grassy areas and run in the open. And also, both of these items can only be used at full health and cost 1 health state to activate. And after he's hooked you 2 times, Vecna can recover the items himself. So you need to decide, are the risks worth it? So Vecna is all about map control and timing. Once you learn how each spell works and pick the right magic item for your build, his power becomes a lot less effective and easier to manage. Next up we have Dracula. This killer comes with a variety of powers, kinda like Vecna, so let's break them down. Dracula has 3 different shapeshift forms: the bat, the wolf, and the vampire form. And each one has its own audio cue to help you react. In the vampire form, you hear a sinister laugh. In the wolf form, a loud howl. And in bat form, you can hear the wings. So these cues are very straightforward, but they give you a big heads up on what you're about to deal with. Alright, so how do we counter the bat form? When Dracula becomes a bat, he can't see survivors, but he can follow scratch marks. So the best move is basically you want to stealth and crouch around and let the bat fly past. His next ability, Hellfire, is a little bit more difficult to counter, but let's go ahead and give it a shot. It works just like Pyramid Head's attack, but it can't shoot through tall objects, so stay away from short objects. And you can also try to predict where he's going to launch his Hellfire attack and try to dodge it. Alright, let's talk about wolf form. Wolf form might be the trickiest to deal with. The pounce is fast, aggressive, and great for closing gaps. Your best counter is sharp corners. The wolf has a harder time turning tight angles, so loop around round objects. The wolf struggles to wrap around the pounce, and you want to break line of sight quickly so he can't line up the leap. If the angle is not very sharp, the wolf can easily get you on the second pounce. So you want something really angled to use against him. So overall, Dracula is a very strong killer, but if you stealth when he's in bat form, dodge his Hellfire attacks, and dodge out of the way of his wolf form, you might actually win against this killer. Now on to the Houndmaster, a killer very similar to the twins, since she also plays as 2 killers at once, and they're both competing as the buggiest killer in the game. This killer honestly surprised me. While researching her, I ended up learning a lot more than I expected, and realized I definitely didn't know everything. One big thing I learned, when Portia May is controlling the dog, Snug's eyes actually glow. That's your warning. If the eyes are glowing, be ready to dodge her attack. When Snugs is being sent out, don't hug loops, and don't run in a predictable path. The dog is hard to control and surprisingly easy to make it miss, but only if you're unpredictable. If you try to be efficient and run tight along walls, you're just going to be pounced on. Another tip, don't pre-drop pallets against this killer. Let Snug actually pounce on you. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but if you let it pounce on you, then you can just drop the pallet right on him and stun the killer, instantly releasing you. Also keep in mind, Snugs can take a health state if you vault a window. Beautiful. So it's sometimes better to avoid vaulting altogether if Portia is raising her arms to send them. Also watch out for her second power, Search. If the Houndmaster uses Search, you need to start running early and completely abandon stealth. If she detects you, she gets Killer Instinct, which you can't counter. Search also allows the killer to move around the map insanely fast, so getting distance early is usually your best play. And that's everything you really need to know. Dodge snugs, don't pre-drop, leave early if she's using search, and don't hide if you're detected. Do all that and you'll be laughing at what the dog is doing just like the rest of us. Moving on to the Ghoul, easily my least favorite killer to go against. Actually, I had a hard time coming up with counters against this killer, so I had to ask around and see what other people thought. One of the strongest counters to the Ghoul is very simple. Do not leave a loop and run into a dead zone. The Ghoul can close distance unbelievably fast, so you want to stay in areas with strong loops where you can break line of sight. At vaults and pallets, the mindset is almost identical to playing against the Singularity. Don't run too far away after vaulting. Stay very close, and you can enforce the Cognate mark instead of letting the Ghoul instantly vault and hit you 2 seconds later. And yes, you can vault back into the Ghoul to body block their movement and immediately revault. This keeps them stuck on the other side rather than letting them fast vault immediately after. Now, something I've been noticing a lot, a ton of survivors are countering the Ghoul by focusing on generators instead of healing. This is basically the same thing everyone does against the Legion. The Ghoul basically enters survivors for free, so healing every time just isn't worth it. You lose so much pressure healing than you actually gain. That said, if you're running a fast healing build, like Desperate Measure, Circle of Healing, Built to Last, and Medkit, then healing can still be valuable. Just make sure your heals take seconds and not half a generator. So bottom line, stay in loops, don't run into dead zones, break line of sight whenever possible, stay close to pallets and vaults to avoid instant Cognate leaps, and don't overheal unless the build is really good. So if you do all this and you keep the gen pressure really high, you'll definitely have a chance at beating this killer. Next up we have Springtrap, a killer with a toolkit that feels familiar if you played against other killers, but is still pretty unique from the rest of them. Its power revolves heavily around whether he's holding his axe or not, because that directly changes his movement speed and how you should loop him. So when Springtrap has his axe, he's slowed to 4.4 meters per second, so your best option is to play tight loops in areas with no big gaps for him to mind game around. His attacks in this state are fairly easy to dodge if you're paying attention, so don't panic when he winds up. Keep the loop tight and break line of sight when possible. Once he throws or embeds the axe, Springtrap jumps back to 4.6 meters per second, the standard killer speed. But here's the catch, if he embeds an axe in you, removing it prevents you from vaulting or dropping pallets. That means choosing whether to take it out becomes a pretty big decision when he's nearby. So yes, removing it slows him down again, but it also locks you out of life-saving actions. If he's close, it's often better to keep the axe in and keep running. Alright, camera scouting. A huge part of countering Springtrap is information. Survivors can reveal his location by checking the cameras. This takes time, but knowing where he is one of the strongest advantages you can have in this matchup. Security doors are another big point of debate in this community. Using them can spread out gen progress and prevent Springtrap from locking down a 3-gen. There's also a risk of him grabbing you if he's in a security room. So this is basically comes down to pure risk assessment. In my opinion, I would only interact with these doors when Springtrap is very busy in a chase across the map. If he's close, don't touch him. He'll just grab you right out of the security room and instantly put you on a hook. So overall, Springtrap is all about information and timing. if you use cameras wisely and pick your loops based on whether he has his axe, and only interact with security doors when it's safe, you'll take away most of his strength. So just stay aware, stay unpredictable, and you'll make Springtrap work a lot harder for every chase. Alright, moving on to the last killer, Krasue. She has two different forms, the human form and the floating head form, which basically she removes her head and intestines from her body and starts flying around everywhere. So usually what happens, the head form flies around, but her human form allows her to regurgitate and spit regurgitation on you. This allows her to harm you in her flying head form. So basically what you want to do is in her human form, you want to look for objects around the map that are not smooth and flat in surface, but are basically uneven geometry. If you can look for anything like that, she has a really hard time shooting her regurgitation on you. Basically avoiding the leech effect. And the leech effect does get worse as time moves on. There's leech effect 1, which does nothing at all, and leech effect 2. If you're in leech effect 1, you can still get hit with the intestinal whip and it'll do nothing at all. So if you're in this form, go ahead and take a body block for your teammate, and you could waste this killer's time as much as possible, hopefully save your teammate. If the killer is after you, you could try to dodge the intestinal whip as best as you can by either running towards the killer or trying to dodge to the side. Because once you're fully infected, there's really not much else you can do other than to pre-drop pallets or try to dodge it as best you can. But if you're a teammate, try to body block. That's the best thing you can do for your teammate. And let everyone know in the comments section if I forgot to mention any counters to any of these killers. I'm pretty sure I forgot to mention quite a few of them. But I tried to do the best I can to help all the other survivors who are struggling against any of these killers. And I'll see you guys in the next one.